Okay, let's get started. I'm a resource person, I am not a committee member, but let's
You
start.
can get it started, town administrator.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I think everybody knows everybody on the committee, but we might want to just introduce ourselves to the audience. Jerry?
Jerry Catino, at-large member.
Steve Willett, selectman.
Andy Soers, planning board.
Bob McCarthy, FinCom.
Maury May, Economic Development Task Force.
Bob Bailey from Planning Board.
I'm Jim Hartnett, the town administrator. I guess the first item on the agenda is election of officers, chair, vice chair, and clerk.
I would like to nominate Steve Willett to be our chair.
I'll second that.
That's what happens when you slide over a seat.
Ooh, I can't participate.
Did you?
You didn't get sworn in yet?
I didn't get sworn in.
I'm
Oh,
sworn
I should
in.
have had her swear at you before we started. Okay. All right, you need somebody else to second that if,
Yeah. I'll second it.
Bob seconded. Are you thinking else?
Yep.
Which brings up another question. Are we all sworn in except for Bob?
Yeah, everybody sworn in? I'm sworn
I
in.
am.
Yep.
I am. All in favor?
Aye. All right, that's unanimous.
Opposed?
Want me to take it over?
It's all yours.
Okay, vice chair. Do we have a nomination for vice chair? Anybody have the time, the guts? Bob, you like doing this stuff?
Sure. Why not?
All right, can I have somebody nominated?
I'd like to nominate Bob Bailey. for
Okay, Jerry.
chair.
I second that.
Second by Manny. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Unanimous. Okay. And clerk. Oh, there he is. Joe, okay. Joe made it, okay. So for the record, we get the complete committee. Joe Amaril's here now.
Joe, did you get
Tony,
sworn in?
make sure you came in.
Yes.
Just one in? Okay, so we just have one. We need clerk. Maury, can you help us?
I can, unless we can hit up the Board of Selectmen budget for
For some money? But you'll help us out for now?
But I can help you out for now, yeah.
All right, can somebody nominate him?
I'll nominate
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a second again?
Second that.
Manny seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Everybody for? Any against? All right, that's unanimous.
So that was 6-0, right?
Yeah, Joe can vote, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 6. One abstention because he's not sworn in.
I'm sorry, was there an abstention?
Well, he can't
Yeah, no,
vote, so
okay,
yeah, he's
no,
out.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to move right into it? Jim, you're going to take us with the
Again, what is Joe's last name?
Amaral.
Amaral, of course.
AMA. So
And you
Jim,
have the school, right?
Yes.
yeah, school buses.
I know you, I've been to lunch with you at B2B.
All right, let Jim get right into it with the Kleinfelder Police Route 6 update.
So we have representatives here from Kleinfelder. They're going to do a little presentation on what's been done today, where we are, what the timeline is, where things stand. Are you going to share the screen, Mark?
Yes, we are, Alice. Can you do that? No.
You want to introduce your team?
Yes, I'll do that first. I'm Mark Thompson. I'm the overall project manager for the work we're doing for you with the Route 6 project. Dave Peterson's and technical resource, you might say, a technical advisor on the project. Alex Silveri is the lead engineer, and Ray Hugh is assisting him. We've got, I don't know, a brief presentation, maybe 15 minutes, and we intend it to be informal. And if you have questions as we go along, jump right in. I'm pretty sure that all of you know we've been working with Jim and Bob in the planning board, and Jim Winton on the planning board for a long time now, and we've gotten a lot done, and we're making good progress, and that's what we're here to tell you about. So, see if you can go Is it full screen for you, Jim? Can you see it?
No full screen. Who's doing the presentation? Who has?
It's coming from Alex. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, it's a good size, Jim. We should-
Yeah, that might be it, Joe. Yep,
So you're all set?
we're good.
Okay.
Jeff.
Yeah, so I'll give you,
You guys
you know,
can't
a
see,
sort of
but
an
the lights are
overview update, and then Alex is gonna get into a little more detail. So, next slide, Alex. So I think, you know, just to orient everyone, of course, we're looking at Route 6 here. As the project has developed over the last couple of years, we've divided it into the work that we're designing into two phases, 1A and 1C. You might say, well, what happened to 1B? What happened to phase 2, 3, and 4? We can get into that if you'd like. But those future expansions and extensions are not being designed at this time. However, they have been taken into account in terms of the flows that they will generate and the capacity that's needed to accommodate those other future phases within the sewer system to be built within Route 6. So phase 1A is what we're really concentrating hard on right now to get fully designed. And by fully designed, I mean ready to go out for public bid. And phase 1C, which picks up where phase 1A leads off as you head towards Dartmouth and goes all the way to the Dartmouth town line, will fall along behind it and in terms of design. And as I mentioned, we're under contract to bring both of these contracts to completion in terms of final design and being ready for public bid. So as you can see in the notes, 1A design is ongoing, and I'd say we're about probably 75-80% complete with the design right now. And we'll get into a little bit more detail on that. In phase 1C, 1C is divided into two subsections. The reason we've done that is that to give the town some flexibility, should the town decide that they don't want to fund the entire phase 1C all at once, we've designed it so that it can be broken up into two subcontracts to be put out for bids separately. And that's the reason for the terminology 1C1 and 1C2. So we did complete 50% design. There's a 100+ page report on the project website, and we'll get you, all you folks that are on this call, we have your email from the invitation for the meeting, and we'll get all of you on, access to the project website, and you can read that report at your leisure and also view a lot of other project-related documents. And that report is what we call a basis of design report or a preliminary design report, and it goes over all the details of how it's being phased, what the flows are, and what the costs are, among other things. And also, phase 1C includes expansion of the water system, not only sewer, but expansion of the water system and extension of a 12-inch water main all the way along Route 6, along with the sewer. And our goal here is to complete design of the 1C contract, around the first of the year, probably, first of the next calendar year. You want to go next slide, Alex? So go ahead, Alex. You can jump in here and go into the details on where we are with phase 1A.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So just getting into the details of phase 1A a little bit more. So there's an existing pump station at White's of Westport that's privately owned, just services the restaurant, the 2 hotels, and the one business across the street. So all of that currently flows to the pump station, gets pumped into Fall River, into their collection system, and eventually goes to Fall River's treatment plant. So the Phase 1A extension would be connecting into that existing pump station. So the way it's configured is everything east or everything west of Sanford Road is going to flow by gravity to the pump station. Everything east of Sanford Road flows in the opposite direction just because the grade starts sloping in the other direction. And then, we'll go back to that. And then we have a proposed pump station around in the vicinity of the Meatworks parcel around 287 State Road that's going to collect the wastewater that is being generated east of Sanford Road and pump it back up to the high point in the grade at Sanford Road intersection. And then that also will flow to the existing White's pump station. So we have here, it's about 4,800 feet of new gravity sewer, 2,400 feet of new force main. So that's the overview of the initial Phase 1A. I can show on the next slide just to give a little bit of a visual. So this is a plan and profile of what we were just looking at. So in the profile, you can see just some more detail on the gravity pipe that's going from the high point in Sanford. To the left is the White's pump station. And then to the right of the high point is the other portion of the gravity sewer that goes to the proposed station, gets pumped back up to the high point at Sanford Road. So just giving a sense of where things are going to flow, how the overview of how the system is going to work. This is just an example now zooming in to, a very specific design sheet. This is an example of one of our, plan and profile sheets, just to give a better sense of what this work is actually going to look like. So this is the survey of Route 6, where you can see there's a good number of other subsurface utilities, existing drain, gas, water main, telecommunication lines, overhead electric lines.
Don't forget the aqueduct.
Yep, and running through the center of the Route 6 median is an old abandoned aqueduct that's owned by Fall River that used to transport water between the Nokachoke and South Watuppa lakes or ponds. So there's a lot of utilities we have to design around. Make sure we're not conflicting. We have the main gravity line with service connections extending to the properties that are abutting Route 6. And then the force main also running for the portion east of Sanford Road. And we'll have paving of the roadway after we excavate and install pipe. So just gives it a little bit of a sense of what the design and construction is going to look like. We have manholes on the gravity sewer every 300 to 400 feet. So that is a little bit of an overview on the design. So a couple other things to mention, considerations for the design. We'll be looking to get easements on 2 properties, one for the proposed pump station east of Sanford Road and one at the White's Westport property, so that we can make the connection into the existing pump station. So this is just an example, draft of what the pump station site plan might look like. Small fenced area with access to the pump station, electrical equipment, a generator. So that's another aspect of the project that we're working on. A couple other items, just high-level information on funding of the project. We submitted a MassWorks grant application, and those decisions are issued, sometime in the fall. We've also been working on betterment calculations, so looking at all of the properties within the project area abutting Route 6, and assigning what their potential betterment costs could be, looking at different methodologies for how we calculate that cost based on the parcel area, whether it's a residential or commercial type of land use. So we're working on that. In terms of permitting, we're working on a notice of intent to submit to the Conservation Commission, and also a state highway access permit to submit to DOT. And then the Interbasin Transfer Act is just another regulation that has to do with if you are transferring water from one watershed into another. So in this case, the public drinking water supply from Fall River is in one watershed. The reservoir in Fall River, it gets distributed into Westport, which is in a different watershed, and then that water turns into wastewater, gets discharged through septic systems into a different watershed. So there's just regulations related to how much the transfer amount, if it exceeds a certain threshold. But luckily, from our conversations so far with the regulators, it seems like this won't really apply to our project, because we're actually correcting a transfer that's already occurring. Not to get into too many details on that, but it's just another permitting aspect of the project that we've been coordinating. So a couple of other items, intermunicipal agreements with Fall River. So we have 2 existing water and wastewater agreements that just set the amount of flow allocation that Westport can receive in terms of drinking water, and how much we can discharge back into Fall River. So just revising those agreements for the updated new wastewater flows we'll be generating with this sewer extension, and also potentially higher water usage as the new sewer will allow for additional development along Route 6. So then, the intermunicipal agreements and just other administrative items that we still, ideally want to have figured out and have a plan going into town meeting for next spring. So we've discussed, management of the system being by the town, or potentially in the future establishing a district similar to Tiverton, Rhode Island, has a wastewater district that manages their system. And then also, looking at the operation and maintenance of the system, whether it's by a private contractor or a town department that gets formed, or in the future, again, if a district is established, maybe having the operation be managed through that. So that's just a brief overview of a little bit of the design and some of the considerations and other items that we're coordinating as we progress the design.
Thanks, Alex. We're gonna go over the.
Just a quick question on the districts.
Yeah.
First of all, is there different districts for water and for sewer?
There can be.
Can
Or
be.
they
And
can be
also,
combined.
okay, so, and also we have existing, a little water utility with about 165 customers.
Right.
Is that going to be rolled in, or can that remain separate?
Totally up to the town.
Okay. That's
Yeah, just.
that's formed as an enterprise fund right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
and enterprise funds are always used in Massachusetts for water and sewer systems.
Hey, Mark, maybe Alex could just clarify for us. You said the pump station would be at 287. Are you going past that and it's going to draw down to 287, or the first phase is terminating at 287 State Road?
Go ahead, Alex. Yeah, the pump store, before Alex jumps in, I'll just say that site plan that we showed you of the pump station,
Yeah.
that's actually at 280 right now. And that's not set in stone, but that's the way we've got it designed at the moment.
So that's what that first phase would go to, correct? Terminate there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So
wanted
Alex,
everybody to
can you be more specific, Alex, on the termination point of the gravity, or the extent of the gravity?
Yeah, I can go back to that map. So yeah, it would be terminating basically in this area around Route 88. There's a lot of wetlands, so there's not as much development potential. So just trying to keep the overall project costs down, as much as we can, while still capturing, the immediately developable parcels. Was kind of how we decided on this location. And it would still allow, some of these other parcels in the vicinity of the cartway could still potentially connect to this proposed pump station location.
Okay, I don't know if you were going to elaborate, but could you tell us what the termination points are in the C1 and the C2? Just so we know, because we got business people here in the room that own along Route 6. They'd like to know if they're included in the phases or where they'd be in the
Okay.
order.
Yeah, you're talking at the, near the Tiverton, near the Dartmouth line, Alex, we're talking about.
Well, some are near the Dartmouth line, but some are right in the middle. So could you just tell us where C1 would end and the next phase would start and end, just so we're all
I see.
clear?
I see it, yeah.
Yeah, where C1 ends is, it's at, I think it's Washington Street, or I guess it's called Road to Railroad Park now.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is the end point there.
So we'll go from 88 to Washington Street? That's the next phase? Roughly 88 to Route 88 intersection to Washington Street? That's C1?
Yeah, and it might not go, the gravity portion might not extend all the way to Route 88. I think we had it stopping now at the Mid-City scrap parcel. It's just a little bit east of 88, but potentially we could extend it further. But again, it just goes to in this vicinity, there's a lot of wetlands, not as developable.
Yeah, it's not developed in that area, so we didn't plan to put gravity there initially.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, any questions for Alex before we move on? Okay, go ahead, we have no mics, so go ahead, Jeff.
The pump stations, how much square footage would they
Take up on the lot?
Yes.
We got a question of how much square footage the pump stations will be taking on lots. So if we're asking for an easement on somebody's property, roughly how much space?
That parcel that's shown on the screen right now is around 2,000 square feet, I think, or the easement, right, Alex?
Okay.
Yeah, I have some dimensions here, like 30 by, or yeah, the actual site area, I think is like 30 by 40. And, you know, the easement we would get would be a little larger than that to allow, you know, operations and maintenance vehicles
Yeah.
to access. But yeah, we're talking, you know, a couple thousand square feet.
Okay, thanks. Any other
Yep.
questions? Rui?
So are you saying the furthest point would be Washington Street?
Phase, for C1, I think he's gonna get to the next one in a minute. So C2, could you let him know that one on the next one after Washington Street? We're from Washington Street to where? Would that
Yeah,
go
all
to
the way
Dartmouth?
all the way to the Dartmouth town
Okay.
line.
So it's C2.
So is Washington Street near the Meat Works?
Washington Street's right across from the big plaza
Yeah.
that they built.
Yeah.
Right across from the VFW.
Yeah, VFW is a good
Okay.
reference. In that neighborhood.
Would this sewer system, as you're showing it here, connect to any distance off of Route 6 or only
Yeah, it should.
definite Route 6 areas?
Yeah, the only thing that we'll be doing, it will be extending, when we go by side streets, we will extend a gravity sewer into the side street enough to get the pipe out of the state easement area, out state right-of-way area, I should say. So, you know, just one parcel in, but the only parcels that don't have frontage on Route 6 will not be able to tie in directly to the pipe. So just think about that from that perspective, that if your parcel has frontage on Route 6, then it's going to be, there'll be a connection left for your property. And there'll be one connection, we call them service connections. There'll be one service connection left for each property.
I noticed you went down as far as the Meat Works on this portion. The area that has been sort of an overlay rezoned for special kinds of industries is right up and behind there. Are any of those intended to be connectable to this?
Yes. In other words, the capacity and design of this, think of this Route 6 pipeline system as the core or maybe the backbone of a system that eventually will extend out north, and not so much north, but generally in a south and southerly direction. And in particular, the science and technology overlay district has been a major consideration in terms of making sure that we're able to accommodate that when it's constructed, or when buildings are constructed in that area.
Mark, that's an important point, that this Phase 1A is the backbone of the system, but it is designed to carry
The whole list.
virtually all of Northwestport.
Yep. And so, you know, that'll be a major consideration when you folks talk about, and others talk about, how do we pay for this? You know, should you know, those that areas of town or the town in general pick up some portion of the cost, since it is, you know, the backbone of a system that's going to be much larger than this someday. But this backbone is being designed and sized to be able to accommodate those future flows. For instance, we've got an 18-inch gravity pipe in Phase 1A, going into Phase 1A. If we weren't designing to accommodate a lot of future flow, it would be an 8-inch pipe. Just to give you an example.
It's only gonna be an 18-inch main on the gravity section?
Yeah.
All right. So it's gonna be bigger than that. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Mr. McCarthy.
I have a question on Phase 1A and 1C. Do we know what the proposed cost is and where the funding source is?
Two big questions, that's for sure.
That's why I asked.
He's our FinCom rep, that's his
exactly.
job.
Yeah. Yeah, the first question is cost estimates. We have done at least preliminary cost estimates on everything. And the Phase 1A cost, we're estimating at right around 7 million now, right, Alex, I think?
Yep.
Yeah. And to recall what the 1C cost is, the 1C project is probably 2.5 to 3 times as large as 1A.
So talking 21 million?
Just for the first two?
Yeah, right now,
For the first two
Yeah,
sections,
yeah.
roughly 21 million.
And the source of the funding is where?
So we-
it's from the town and any grants and funding that the town can acquire. And by town, put that in quotes, meaning the people that abut the sewer and the town in general, depending upon how the town decides they, as a whole, want this project to be financed. That's a huge question the town needs to decide.
So what you're saying right now, there is not a funding source?
No, well, the plan, at least from our perspective and what we understand is that at least the 1A project, I think the plan is to put a town meeting warrant article on the spring town meeting next year to fund the construction and get it built. And get 1A built. And, the question will obviously be, well, how are we gonna pay for it? And one source is betterments. One way to go about it is betterments. Another way is the general fund. And a third, of course, is any potential grants and outside funding, which we're all obviously trying to maximize. So one of the questions is between betterments and, property tax increases or general fund financing is how do you make that split? Should, people pay large betterments as a percentage of the cost or small betterments or something in between? And we're, Alex mentioned we're working on betterment calculations. We've developed methodologies and formulas to calculate betterments for each property based on the estimated amount of wastewater flow that they'll generate. And we'll be sharing those with the town, with all you folks very soon.
So question on, you said 1A is 7 million, but we are also, or have also applied for a Mass Works grant. So how much of that 7 million can we essentially get from the state in the form of a grant?
Actually, Alex mentioned we filed it, but, we at Kleinfeld did not file it. We helped the town. Bob Taylor and, I think it was some in the planning board actually did the legwork and actually filed that.
So planning board's preparing the grant?
We've already filed it.
They've already filed it, all
And
right.
it
Yep.
was filed for the whole 7 million. Mass work grants are generally capped around 5 million, but that's, we've already applied.
Good.
Jim, did you do a lot of work on that?
That grant, no, the planning board did the majority of the work on that grant application.
All right, I've got a question over here. Rui, if you want to grab that mic just so they can hear you. Thank you.
Although my understanding, I was told that there was federal and state money available.
Just say who you are, I'm sorry.
My name is Rory Cadero. I was under the understanding that there was state money and federal money for this project.
Oh, I will say
I
that
think under the infrastructure bill.
Go ahead. Come on.
yeah, Jim, you want to mention all the grants the town's already received?
Sure, just to give you an idea of where we are, we started off with a $50,000 earmark from Senator Rodrick's. We did the preliminary design of that first phase between Fall River and Route 88. We then applied for a rural small town grant. We got a $380,000 grant from the state to do the final design on that same section between Fall River and Route 88. The town received ARPA funds through the federal government and the state, and they allocated $371,000 for the preliminary design of the rest of Route 6 from Route 88 to Dartmouth. And then Senator Rodrick's got million earmark for Route 6 infrastructure
I thought
design.
he had told me 2 million.
1 million is all I'm aware of.
Yeah.
That was the next,
Maybe
we
next
had
year.
some before that too, right? Though?
That's what I was
Yeah,
told.
we had some on top of that. All right, but, yeah, it looks like we got the funding for the planning. It's the next step where, hopefully we get that grant to keep rocking and rolling.
And there's different funding sources available. We met with DEP yesterday. They said through their SRF program, it's more of a loan program, but they do have some loan forgiveness in there. And depending on the type of project, it could be anywhere from 6% up to 25% forgiveness. So,
Yeah, I was
still
gonna
waiting for
mention
some
the
details
SRF
on
program,
that.
yep.
And there may be some more infrastructure money coming down. We don't know. The thought was we wanted to be ready for this if there was infrastructure money available. A number of communities throughout the country have been doing this, and the planning board's pushed hard.
So as of right now, you don't know of any infrastructure money to handle
Not
this?
specific grant money. There's loan money available, but specific grant, there hasn't been any specifically allocated to this project, but there is some funding out there. That's where it's going.
One of the reasons that the business community got involved in this is we're under the impression, to follow up on Rudy's question, there was a lot of federal money available for infrastructure bill at the federal level. Is it my understanding that we're not following through in the federal level? Is there a point person for the federal grant? I mean, years ago, Acushnet did 90% of their water and sewer through a federal grant, and there are other examples of that at the federal level. And in the last year, there's been a lot of discussion in terms of federal funds for infrastructure. I'm hoping that we're going to look at that as part of the package, long before we go to a town meeting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, now that we're organized, there's gonna be a lot more irons in the fire. We'll be poking around a lot more and finding out more.
Didn't at that
Yeah.
stupid meeting say they were gonna help us on that end?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
I just think that if this goes to town meeting, it's all over.
No,
No, you got a new high school, this is never gonna happen.
well, let's see what happens with the Mass Works grant.
We're talking chump change that was handed out
Right.
to do studies. We've been doing studies on Route 6,
Yeah.
seems like forever.
Yeah, well, this one isn't as expansive as the first one is. Maury was on that, so he's gonna help us out. I think it stands a really good chance. We just gotta let the public know what's going on and keep poking around for grants. So now that this is our first meeting, so.
And I have to
We take it from
agree what, our chair just said, that, and with all due respect to engineers in the room, okay? But engineers stood up at that town meeting in 2004 and totally screwed that up. There was a young woman who just stood there and said, well, phase one's gonna cost $30 million. And
So-
talked about betterments and all this, and
Yeah, you can't
so,
put that on the
so
backbone
what we
of
have to
people's
do,
residents.
what we have to do is balance the engineering with the financial.
Yep.
Because
Exactly.
the financial will kill water and sewer projects in this town. I've been on 2 committees and they both failed. This is the 3rd one.
Yeah, so we're.
And this one has got to be successful, at least part of the way.
Yeah, and like I said, economic development, we've got some politicians in high power right now, so we're not gonna get a better time than we can to grab more money. Go ahead, Bob.
We have some competing interest here. Not only is this a desirable project to put water and sewer, especially if I had a business there, but we're also competing with what are the unknown costs. If I had property, would this automatically grant cover me tying into the system, or do I have to pay for that? That would be the first question I would have if I had a business.
Right.
The second thing is
Yep.
this. This project is a significant project which has significant cost. Right now, we have a new Diamond and we have a new Bristol Aggie. Both of them are significant, both of them have significant cost. We get competing interest here. I'm a retiree on Social Security. I may have a pension or not have a pension. How much can I pay in my taxes for all of these projects before I'm driven out of town? Who speaks for the guy who's 80 years old and living on Social Security that's going to pay the freight for this the 2 schools, and we haven't got the freight bill yet for the new high school. So now we got 3 schools to pay for, plus the water and sewer.
Well, let's keep.
And this is what the general public,
Right.
at the town meeting and elsewhere, and some of the questions that have come to me from ordinary people, as well as people who own businesses, what are the benefits, what are the costs, and how does that affect me personally as a homeowner?
Right.
I don't know if you've got that.
Well, the
Steve?
simple answers are, you could, like they touched base on in his presentation, you could have more build out, businesses could build bigger, they're gonna have cleaner water, there's gonna be less seeping into the area. We already know there's a lot of problems with wells in the area, and people don't wanna bring it to our attention. It could be a lot worse.
Sure.
People don't wanna tell you, hey, I don't drink my water, I drink bottled water, especially in our area. And just to make it known publicly, I live off Route 6, I would be in Zone C1, but I'm on a side street. I don't have frontage on Route 6. So, just to make that clear. So,
Right, but that's a valid question
Right.
that you've asked me, but I haven't heard a valid answer yet to the question that I asked. Who is going to pay all of this freight and how much? Because we don't even know what the schools are gonna cost right
Right.
now.
right.
I need a dollar figure.
Well, that's what we gotta do, yeah.
That's what we need to
We gotta
do.
work at it.
Before we get into any phase of building or anything else,
Well-
what is the cost?
Well, like, hang on one second. 7 million, and Bob's already applied for the grant for phase 1 to get us rocking and rolling.
If we get the grant.
If we get the grant. If not, there would be some costs. We're gonna have to figure that out down the road and how much money we could get. Jim, you came back, bad time, boy, we're trying to find money. Rui, go ahead.
I have no problem paying my own way.
Yeah.
People that have been getting water off of Davis Road.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't take the burden, they're the ones that are using that water.
Right,
So
right.
I have no problem taking the burden on my own. I don't agree that the town should take the burden.
No.
And listen, I'm here to
Right.
support this project.
Right.
If you can get federal money, we've been told that it was federal money. That's what I'm talking.
I think what Mr. McCarthy's talking about is town-wide, and that's what's gotta be ironed out.
I
Is
don't
it-
think it should be town-wide.
Well, that's what we've gotta figure out, because
The
no,
end user's gonna pay.
because South End is gonna say why that only
Well,
affects the north
listen,
end, but we gotta figure it
South End's
out.
been shoveling it to the north end for a long
Right.
time, so.
But like they discussed, some of the side streets is gonna have stub outs. It's not gonna be all the way down the road. It's gonna be frontage, which is mostly business or people that are hoping that this comes.
He said they would stub it to the road.
Right, there'd be a stub, but you'd have to
Evidently, if you
continue.
want, to use the system, you gotta put a pump.
Yes, to make, like he said,
To
if
go
you-
into the thing.
if you have frontage on Route 6, you're gonna make out, and that's where the betterments would come out. That's what we've gotta hash out. You know, did the whole town have to pay for your property on Route 6? Probably not, because most of the businesses are like you. They're gonna make out well with it. And so that's the part we gotta discuss. That's the part that hurt last time, is because Joe Average, if you will, down a side street, didn't wanna pay $3,200 for it to go buy his house, which was some of the rumors. And this is, what, 10 years later, 20 years
Some
later?
people don't have a choice.
Right. I mean, if you have a house there,
There's
you
people
might
on
have
Route
a
6. I mean, I've got a couple of them that the wells
Right.
not doing well, and I could do septics.
Right.
You know?
Yes. So I think we all agree, it's just, he had a valid point. Is everybody gonna pay for it? Go ahead.
The way I look at water and sewer here in Westport is that there are 3 major reasons for it. Number 1 is economic development, largely along Route 6, because it will help business owners, it will help the tax base in the town. Second of all, there is that health aspect, that there are failed septic systems. I was
Can I
on
just
Board of
ask-
Health.
can I just stop you for 1 second?
Failed septic
Can I
systems.
just ask?
Let me just
a quick
finish
question?
just three. And that we can help, you know, with the, the failed septic systems. That's a health angle. The third is the environmental aspect, because we have a river that's loaded with nitrogen. And the fewer septics, active septics we can have in town, probably will mean the healthier river going forward. So they're really those 3 things. And definitely, if we have a healthy river, the whole town benefits. And if we have economic development on Route 6, the whole town benefits.
I don't think there's gonna be the development you think there's
So
gonna
those
be
are
on
those
Route
3
6.
things. So
Take that
I
burden.
think partially it does help specific people, businesses, and residents.
You've
But
got
at
the
same
start,
time,
which is
there are a
behind.
couple ways it helps the entire town.
There-
And
there-
this is an important concept, I think, going forward.
Okay, yeah, let Bob jump in.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment. As a person who has been promoting this and advancing this to where we are, and have gone to the boards and asked for money and paid grants, and is one of those 80-year-old taxpayers. I live across the street from my friend, and we are mindful. That is, those of us who've been advancing this are mindful of what it costs and who pays. Okay, so what it costs and who pays, and we've been looking to pursue grants, and I read the papers and I hear all this stuff, $100 billion in the bill, in the infrastructure bill. That's great. I'll work my ass off for this town to go get that $100 billion. I don't know where they keep it. I'd go get it.
Yeah.
Because
I like to hide it.
I think that $100 billion in the federal money, they're giving it to the state for water and sewer. And the state wants to loan that back to us. That money is flowing into DEP grant program. So when we go to, and we've talked to the state, and what the state said, yeah, we'll loan it to you at 2% interest. So it isn't sitting there in a grant that we just fell asleep on. We didn't fall asleep on anything, and when we tried to pursue it, it's in a grant program. Whether or not we can use our political clout to have that change, so that the money, if it's in a loan, it gets 100% forgiven, so it's like a grant. We're not there yet. And the other thing that I would like a perspective to say is that the who pays. I can tell you, right now, we've had meetings with DEP. We had a meeting the other day, and they're about to adopt a new policy to have every septic system in this town have nitrogen-reducing septic capacity in 5 years, and they're going to put that on the town. So if we don't build a sewer, the who pays question is the people in Westport
Pay 30 grand each.
30 grand each,
For new septic.
out of their pocket to do that, and I would say that most people can't do that. That would be a real burden.
Mr. Chair, can I speak on
Yeah,
that
go
one
ahead.
too?
Go ahead.
So, we got the DEP doing this. Our Board of Health, I guess, what is it, 300 cesspools, they got the sunset law on it.
Yep,
So if you're gonna look at that, many of them are in that area.
and a lot of.
2.5 years left, okay? They've already enforced them, making everybody put these in. We're talking, that 300 cesspools is a $10 million price tag for the property owners that own them cesspools.
And believe me, the tax rate wouldn't hit them. If we paid this 25 million, this round number to do this trunk sewer is around 25 million. 7 and 18 plus. So it's 27, 25. And you think, let's get some grants for that. Let's get that
Let me
happen.
hang on one second.
Because you have to look at, if we do nothing, you don't get the economic benefits, you don't get the environmental benefits, and the people sitting there are at risk of having to reach in their pocket for serious money.
And the drinking water standards.
Yeah, drinking water. So we're not tying up the engineers and taking more out of our production money. Anybody else have anything else for the engineers?
I would like to say one more thing on that. Because again, and Bob, and you were in these meetings when we're sitting here because we were told to get shovel-ready projects.
Yep.
Now, the entities that told us to do this gave us the money to design it.
Yep.
So that's what we're looking to do right now. I mean, to phase it, if we've been studying it forever. We put the water main in the 80s, it stopped, it never even did anything after that point. So what we need to do now is to get this design complete. I see we're phasing construction, but we're under contract for the whole design, correct?
That's right.
And when will that design be complete?
1C design will be complete around the first of the year.
How about the complete design that we're under contract for?
The 1A is.
First of the year. The 1A project will be completed this fall, maybe with just some lingering time for the permits. But, you know, the plan is to be, the design will be done on 1A in the fall. And so you're exactly right, though. I mean, Bob and Jim and the planning board, that's their driving force, you know, get shovel-ready projects. And that's exactly what we're helping the town to do. And I might also add that as an engineering firm that deals with cities and towns every day on projects like this, Westport has done a great job, at least in our opinion, in terms of getting grants to get where you are today. With getting this project shovel-ready. A lot of towns are still not as far along and not doing that.
And
So-
the taxpayers haven't paid a penny
All right, so
for these contract documents. Where we are today, surveys, borings, all the test pits, all the design, all the engineering costs, all of that has not cost the taxpayers a penny. It didn't come out of the warrant at all.
okay. All right, we're gonna let them wrap up. Just, Mark, hang on just one second. Mark, just to clarify, you said C1 is like January, February. What about do we have the funding already in place to design the whole thing, or do we need more money?
No, it's all
All
in
the
place.
funding's there, okay. So what about the rest of,
Yep.
what's the timeline for the rest?
That's totally up to the town in terms of designing future phases above and beyond
All
Route
of
6.
all of
We're talking about all of Route 6 for the contract. What is the
Oh,
timeline? for
okay,
the-
yeah. I mean, 1A and 1C together make up all of Route 6, and that'll be, ready, designed, all set, January, February timeframe.
Okay, that's the whole stretch, just so we're all clear. The whole stretch will be done early next year, over the winter.
Yeah, and, I think, Jim and Bob have, made it clear to us that at least they want to be ready by then to get in front of the finance committee and others and get ready for town meeting next spring.
Right, I think that's why we're asking, because this way we can push for more money as the percentage gets higher on the design. Jeff, go ahead.
How you doing? Jeff Abrams. We have city water that comes down between Zumari Drive. It stops there off of Route 6. Will we be able to utilize that portion, or will we have to start fresh?
So
Do you understand the question now?
With the existing ends, are you asking Jeff if it's a tie-in, or?
Where the water stops down is at the post office in Cozy Nook. It's right there. Can we use that same line, or will we be putting a new line all the way down?
Are you gonna have to rerun that from any intersection, or just keep
No,
going?
We're extending.
Just extending, right?
We're extending the pipeline.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so our existing water main, when they built it in the early 80s,
Yeah.
like what Jeff's talking, I believe Jeff brought that line across Route 6. Well, it was there were gates left at all the intersections. I saw some of the as-built plans in the highway from Face Spot from Thorndike. All the intersections have gates. Will this contract include bringing them gates across Route 6, the existing water main?
We don't have any
Services?
plans to do anything to the water main in the Phase 1A area. I don't know if that answers your question.
It's just a continuation, it's
Well,
not branches, is that what you're asking,
yeah.
the branches?
It's gonna be a problem because that's been part of our problem. Like, this is something that we probably need to get added in.
Oh, well, let me go on to say that as we extend the water main from where it leaves off now to the Dartmouth line, there will be service connections for every property along the way, just like the sewer.
Well, my concern is the expansion of the and one of our major problems on Route 6 is the water. It's probably more of a problem, a health
Yep.
problem, and to the public than what our
Right.
septics are doing to the river. The water main's dead-ended. Many business, we have problems with the quality of water because it's dead-ended and it's not looped in. When it was left in Route 6, it was never brought out of Route 6. So a lot of these small businesses, which the type of business that I think is going to further develop on Route 6, are small businesses, to get that service out of the Mass Highway was too much money. There was a couple of restaurants that tried to do it, and, it was like a $40,000 connection. So I think we gotta look into this water main, when we're doing the water main and everything's, you know, when they put the water main, they gotta test it. Those services, the gates are there, everything should be taken out of Mass Highway, in one of these contracts.
I think they have it. Are you gonna have a loop in the design? Or no? No, Jim's shaking his head no. So there's not gonna be any loop, just gonna be a direct down Route 6 and end it?
Yes, unfortunately, we'd love to be able to loop it, but the cost is just astronomical to do that.
So you're still gonna have a circle for everything. All right, I'd like to wrap it up with them. Any other questions? So every property that has frontage is gonna have a stub, and the side streets are gonna have stubs, correct? For future
Yeah.
service?
Right.
All right, just so everybody knows. Okay, we can let the engineers go. All right, we should be all set with you guys. We're gonna move on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, the next thing on the agenda was reviewing the existing funding. We had different questions on it, we kind of bounced around on that. Jim, was there anything else you wanted to add on funding sources?
No, it was the existing, and I talked about that, what funding we've received so far and what we spent it on, and, yeah.
All right, why don't we, number 4 on the agenda was hiring a project manager. Jim, what do we gotta do on that?
So I don't know if that's, I want the committee to consider it. It was discussed with Bob Daly, Jim White, and myself, whether or not we need somebody here in town that can kind of oversee this project and manage it as we move forward. There's a lot of components to it, a lot of different...
Is there anything in the grants to cover it?
There would be funding. So in the grant from Senator Rodrick's, the $1 million, I think we've earmarked about 550 of that so far. So there's about $450,000 available to do. And it's got to be, that earmark was directed to Route 6, so it's got to be associated with water and sewer along Route 6. And the wording did include our project manager if the committee wants to do that.
Do we have any idea on prices or good companies we could research?
We have a couple of names of people that we contacted early last year. We're actually hoping to do something sooner, but for numerous reasons we delayed it. But
If you know them, can you circulate them just so we have an idea? Let us know the names, just so we have an idea and we can dig into it deeper. Is there any specific questions or anybody that doesn't want a project manager? I mean, I think it makes sense to keep things going. Somebody who knows what's going on and especially poking around more, probably knows more about grants and stuff.
Yeah, we definitely need, especially like these tiny loose ends, it's something that they can follow up on.
All right, so Jim, send us the names, and I don't know if we'll want to interview them at our next meeting, or at least look over their resumes at the next meeting, okay? Give us an idea of what's out there.
How do we pay for it?
How do we what?
How
He
do
said
we
it's
pay
part of
for
the grant, the $1 million grant.
Okay.
As long as it's not all of the town, it's directly for water and sewer Route 6.
Okay.
All right, so this way we'll have an idea, hey, this is gonna come out of $1 million, and probably next meeting we'll discuss it.
I mean, we could probably use that person to pursue grant money too,
Yeah.
no? I mean, that's-
Yeah, anything to do with the project.
get
Usually
somebody-
when it's a project manager with water and sewer, they already have their ear and know what's out there, so give us an idea. Next step, Jim, you got any advice on that? Go ahead, Jerry. I'm
Can I
sorry.
ask a question that sort of relates to the hiring a project manager, for example? I'm just wondering what is the jurisdiction of this committee? For example, a project manager, does this committee hire?
No, I would say we'd have to present to the board.
Advisory to
Yeah,
the selectmen?
just like economic development, we're gonna do all the legwork and say the selectmen, this is what we think. Generally, the selectmen will go along with it.
Because some of
so.
that can slow things down, so I
Yeah.
just wanted.
No, we'll get it on there. I mean, through the selectmen, we form the committee. I think everybody wants to keep this rolling. I don't know anybody on the board that doesn't want it. Planning board wants it, economic development wants it. So everybody's trying to push it forward. Businessmen want it, so let's see what we can do. All right, so that's the next steps. Anything else on the next
I don't
steps?
have anything else. No.
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead,
I would like to look into the potential funding sources.
So more funding sources?
And I would like to nail it down and maybe, report to the next meeting where these funds,
Sure.
I'm talking about grants essentially, where we can get funding from outside the town, from the
Yeah, well, that's
state.
Mike and Paul too. But don't forget, they have staff that can help us too, dig around. Mike Roderick, Paul
Yeah.
Schmidt, so
Yeah,
funding sources.
okay.
And that'll keep Bob happy too. The more funding
Well, I
sources we
think,
can
I
find.
think Bob made a real contribution tonight by
Yes.
bringing up the
Well, I mean,
financial aspect here.
gotta bring out everything.
I think these two gentlemen here made a valid point about the town meeting and the voters.
Yeah.
This project, as worthy as the majority of people here feel is going nowhere
Without town meeting.
without me the taxpayer saying, how much is this gonna cost me along with everything else I gotta come up with?
Right.
Because it's like an override.
Yeah.
And if you don't convince people that they are going to be affected by it, and their effect on them is going to be positive, it is going nowhere.
Well,
You can have all the intention you want, but it's going nowhere.
Well, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna dig around with Tiverton and see what they did. See what they were charging for betterments, because like he said, every house gets a stub. That's work going to, that's an improvement to your property that you could tie into that stub down the line. We're gonna have to find out what people are gonna have, what hoops they're gonna have to jump through. We might have to help do a policy, whether that's through planning or Board of Health. Bob, you got all of that figured out for me yet? There you go. So Bob's got a lot of that stuff done.
Good, I'll check on it.
So, planning board, we gotta give them props. Planning board's obviously spearheaded this.
Yep.
So, they've done a lot of hard work, so we'll find out.
Steve, no.
You might, taxpayers might not have to pay anything except improvement on
Right, but what I'm saying to you is
DPW,
this.
which we don't have.
Right now, there are all kinds of stories all over the town about how much it's gonna cost me to tie in, are they gonna pay this tie in?
Yeah.
I heard this from my brother-in-law, my cousin told me this.
Yeah.
The stories out there are from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Well, there's different options that we'll discuss, because, he's experienced with, Manny's got experience with excavating. Do we have a stub out and then they can get their own contractor, which happened with water? Will that be a mess where they're gonna be ruining, it's all stuff we gotta discuss. If we gotta have a certain company that only does it, I know Don Willett, I'm not related, but he did a lot of the water ties in. People are on their own. So it could be totally independent. We just got, like Rui said, he doesn't mind paying, it's a betterment. We've got to figure out how much it's gonna be for the stub ins and how the town's gonna handle it. Because we're gonna rip open the road. When we rip open the road, we don't wanna rip it open 2 months later for somebody else. We gotta have a game plan.
Correct.
When we did Route 6 last time, we couldn't touch it for 7 years to get the money to do it. So that's what I mean, we've gotta get the word out, there's gotta be planning. Like I said, Bob's got a lot of good points. He could probably email us stuff now that we're organized. I will say, I'll send you guys information, just remember, we can't discuss it. Like, if I say Tiverton has a $3,000 fee to go by their house, you can't all chime in saying that's stupid, I'll never vote for that. I think we're all been on committees, I don't know, Joe, if you've been on municipal. So we can't discuss it, we discuss that here, but you can send another article if you want, that this is what happens in Tiverton, but we cannot discuss how you're leaning, just so everybody, we make it clear, okay? Again, I think we're all familiar. Jimmy, how are you gonna vote on that? Go ahead. I need you.
I just wanted to tell you that we've already been to Tiverton.
Right, okay, you got the info?
Information that we can share with you.
Excellent. You saved me some work. I appreciate that, Jim, because I know the last time I contacted them was on the stormwater runoff, which might be part of this. Do you have anything on that, Bob, on the stormwater tie-ins? I think Tiverton did something different with that. They had people do dry wells. That's another phase, where people are going to do with their runoff. All stuff we got to consider. All right, so before I have people start falling asleep, but we learned a lot of things tonight. We need to come up with a schedule for future meetings.
Steve, could I ask a question?
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
Are there any other projects that you're aware of that's going on that we need to be concerned about? That we, for example,
Infrastructure.
the safety of
broadband.
Route 6.
Yeah.
Is that going simultaneously here, or is that a dead end, or what's going on?
I'm on Bike and Walking Committee. I'm not the chair of that one, so Gail Rogers is. They're trying to get biking better, but that would all just tie in to the game plan while we got Route 6 working. Bike is, broadband is, infrastructure, then utilities. We've got to touch base with all of them. But yes, there are actively committees right now, broadband, infrastructure. Sean is the selectman rep on that. And bike committee walking that's trying to make Route 6 safer to walk. Go ahead,
The
Rick.
sidewalk thing from Dartmouth, is that gonna happen in Westwater at all? Do you know, or is that?
I doubt it.
That's strictly a
So,
Dartmouth thing?
Mr. Chair, there's some preliminary design work being done right now with Mass DOT, Mass Highway, to look at the Route 6 from Fall River to Dartmouth,
I know they're
the
doing-
lanes, the Center Island.
That's a state thing?
That's
They're
a,
doing?
that's a state thing or a state requirement. I'm not sure if.
So I didn't know if they were,
If
they were coming down
Actually,
Route 6.
Well, yeah, it goes by.
that was a contract that was put out for the intersections only. Dartmouth pushed, and the state used some ARPA money to continue that sidewalk down.
After the death.
They had put that into their contract to repave the
Find
the
something
whole
to
road. They pulled it out of their contract. The Mass DOT resident told me, because they're gonna redo all of Route 6, they're talking about removing the concrete and everything. the Dartmouth section. I don't know what they're planning on, but that's what I was told by the resident engineer on that project, because it goes by a piece of.
Now, I will tell you, that's when town meeting, that's when we got a little bit more to worry about, because the town has to maintain the sidewalks. The town fought us with my selectman hat when we wanted a DPW, so we'd have people to take care of all of this. We've got to iron out if we're going to have an independent company or if we're going to have DPW.
So who's supposed to maintain the sidewalks?
Westport. Your taxes.
Route 6?
Yep. Right by your
So the
house.
tall grass, what do we call it? Westport?
No, I got a neighbor across the highway that cuts it for us every couple of weeks.
I'm talking the sidewalk.
The sidewalks we're supposed to be.
So if you go down by,
I know. Go to the point, you'll see some sidewalks.
I picked up an old gentleman that fell.
Yeah.
When that was laid there.
The highway, you notice, seriously, if you notice anything.
I went there and cut the grass myself.
Report it to highway department. I've reported it to, so.
I called the police.
Police will report it to highway department. But yes, we are responsible as a town for the sidewalks. The same thing with people push snow on it and I have to go complain to people sometimes. That's us. Go ahead, Tony.
With all due respect, I know you're going to hire a project manager or talked about that.
Yeah.
I think, I just did a Google search and tried to find out what we're doing with the infrastructure money. 6 days ago, Huntsville, Alabama got $20 million. Now, we have United States senators and we have United States representatives.
Yeah.
If we don't go after federal monies,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
you don't need a project manager. So I would think from a priority standpoint, even though we have a design funding pot, we need to be looking at the bigger picture. Or we're going to have a design that's going to sit on this shelf for 20 years. So there's funds available. There's billions of dollars in infrastructure funds are available. We need to look at this not through the state. We understand that's a model. But there are 50 states.
Oh, no.
And there are different models. And we have U.S. representatives at the Senate and in the House that should be able to do something for us. If Huntsville can do it, I think we ought to be able to do it.
Yep. Oh,
And they have
agree.
it.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. And Tony, if you find any stuff, forward it to us, myself, and I'll distribute it to the crew. Do you have everybody's email? Because
Yes,
Jerry's is updated, I gotta get his done.
I do.
I know Murray's, Bob.
I can get them from you, I think.
Okay, so let's get an
All the
email list, and then
telephone
if you
numbers
guys
and
want them, whether Manny wants to distribute it, if you want to be on the list that we send out all the information to, just give me the
Are
info.
you gonna continue with the 4 o'clock meetings?
4 o'clock, it's just Jim's here. It's tough, I work too, so.
There's a lot of people that are not here because of that.
Yeah, I mean,
Just so you know.
Jim is a resource. He had to get us rolling. He could possibly miss some meetings if he has to, because he's got 1,000 meetings that we could do. So if it has to be later,
6 o'clock Wednesday would be fine with me.
6
but it would
is
be
better for
6.
everybody. How about you, Bob? Is Wednesdays a good day?
Yeah.
I got surfing on some Wednesdays, but I'll just have to figure it out.
I have zoning board.
On Wednesdays,
We're looking at monthly meetings, right?
they have it in here.
6:30.
we can alternate.
Yeah,
Steve, we're
we'll
looking at-
get it on. All right, what I'll do is I'll send out dates to the committee of when zoning is not here. Is that okay with you, Jerry? The off Wednesdays?
Oh,
That
yeah.
work?
Yeah.
And 6 o'clock's the best.
We're looking at monthly meetings, right?
I would say it might be more if we gotta
Yeah.
go chasing money. For
Okay.
now, let's just schedule one. I've got the schools open in a couple of weeks, so what works for everybody? In a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month? I'm gonna find out when zoning meets, and I'm gonna go for the off weeks. Do you happen to know the next zoning meeting, or Jerry? Or?
Yeah.
Let me know. We'll go the Wednesday after them if it's.
So this is the third Wednesday. The next third Wednesday is the 21st of September.
All right, that's clear for me. I get it. Once school's rocking and rolling, I'll have more availability.
So let's tentatively plan for the 21st of
Yeah.
September and.
Just checking with Jerry, see if it's an off week.
No, August 24th is that. We don't have regular meetings. We have meetings when we need hearings.
Okay, so the 21st right now you're off? All right, so I'll post, can you help me post?
Of September, you think?
Yes, in next month.
September. It's a long way away.
Oh, you want to make it a little earlier? It's a month. What's a week earlier? 14th?
Well, I mean,
Then next week, the week before, that'll be a little tougher for me. Maybe the 21st and we'll get.
so this is
much
the
info.
third Wednesday.
21st. My vice chairman says the 21st.
Okay.
And it'll be a little cooler, everybody will come down.
5 weeks, it's not, but you have to do that sometimes.
So 21st?
So if we.
Laurie, we'll have all the grants figured out.
Okay, 21st, 6 PM, and then if everybody, 21st, 6 PM, and then we'll figure out if we need let's go with the one after that. Does you want to figure it out now or later for the next one? October 21st? What's the next Wednesday in October? He's gonna look up the next Wednesday.
So it would be the 19th of October.
October 19th, is that okay with everybody? We'll put that for the 2 days.
7 o'clock?
If it, 6, yep. And if it doesn't work, email me. So September 2/1, October, what was that one again? What was that? 19th,
It's the 19th.
6 p.m. All right,
So we're looking at the 21st of September and the 19th.
I will send emails asking anybody what they want for agenda items before I have to turn it in a week before. If you think of anything, let me know. If we need any research, if you want a guest speaker, if you know anybody wants to talk to us about money, or we find anything, we want anybody here, let me know so we can try to book them.
Steve, I'd like somebody from Mass DPW with some reign of authority, seeing we're talking about Route 6,
All right, we
which is
can
a
try.
state highway. I would like to get it from the engineer who's responsible in district for that road.
I will say Pam Hazen has been very helpful to the town. She's who helped with the bridge project. I will see. I don't know if she's retiring or not. She could probably make it to a meeting. I will ask. I'll put Pam Hasner in a question mark. Yeah, because with my Serp Ed hat too, we can get people here.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I gotta,
Second, oh, you got a question first?
yes.
All right, hang on 1 second. Go ahead.
Can we possibly in the next meeting get something with the Board of Health here to discuss the cesspools and stuff that are, the nitrogen right now that making them do them when it's the water quality is the issue of the well water. It's not affecting the river, but we got people that are abutting Route 6.
All right. We can't, I mean, we had some stuff on that, but.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, I sat on the Board of Health looking at water wells that were right next to the neighbor's septic system. And it's an issue, but
Well,
it's...
the Board of Health created this regulation, which everybody in this room is
What, you
aware
mean
of.
the D-night regulation?
D-night.
So you
Okay,
want
and
to talk about D-night?
They told the people that when you do a repair, you weren't going to be required to put the denitrification system. Now, the whole idea of the denitrification system, it helps our numbers for the river. But a septic system up on my back street, Crane Ave, is not going to affect the river. The number
It's the big
will
one.
affect the total load.
Yeah.
What it's affecting is their well, okay? So what's happening is, the Board of Health told the people, if you're gonna do an upgrade and you're not gonna do an expansion, you can do a Title V system.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as they go for the Title V system, they make them test the well. The well now has 5 parts per milliliter, and they're making them put the nitrogen, when the state says 10. So now we get people that are spending.
Let's see who I can get first.
That's a detail that...
I know, and
That is worth pursuing, and I was part of that, and I know what you're talking about.
we need,
but-
like,
Well, you're gonna try to convince people at town meeting.
all right,
that
but,
you just
well,
put a $35,000 septic system in,
I got
and
you.
2 years down the road, the sewers go
But
by
that's
your
really
house.
more of a Board of Health issue than it is...
yeah, I mean, so let's see what I can get for a speaker, Mass DOT, or I'll ask Matt from Board of Health. But it's not gonna be about us chewing up regulation. We need to get out there why we need water and sewer. That's our goal. We need to stay focused, or we're never gonna get it done. It'll be another study on the shelf because we can't agree to get something
And
to
water and
town.
sewer bypasses that whole issue.
Yeah.
But the people are spending the
But
money.
let's
now.
find,
Worry about it.
let's find out, we need to get the realistic
Okay.
goals of when the next section will be done for us to
You
argue.
said that was a $10 million price tag.
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate...
Okay, do it again. Okay,
Reiterate my
second
motion to adjourn at 5:17.
Is there a second? Bob seconded, Bob, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? No. All right, thank you, everybody.